Thank you, President Seneca, for that testimony. The chair will now recognize members for 5 minutes of questions, and I will begin by recognizing the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole, for 5 minutes. Mr. Cole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It shouldn't take that long. This is a pretty straightforward piece of legislation. Chief Langford, as I mentioned, probably met with you, I don't know how many times over 10 years about this issue. It shouldn't be this hard for somebody trying to do the right thing. But you probably know more about it than anybody else. You certainly know the historical and legal background better than anyone else. Can you explain to the committee the treaties associated with this legislation and the tribes that are directly involved?
Thank you for that question, Congressman. Yes. So there's 3 tribes involved in the Treaty of Grouseland that's named there in Article 4, and that'd be the Miami tribe, the Wea tribe, and the Eel River tribe. The Weas and the Miamis have basically been merged for 150 years. Eel River became Miamis. The Wea tribe, they signed away their treaty rights years ago, and now they have confederated and became a member of one of our local tribes, the Peoria tribe. So that's really the Miami tribe is the only tribe left standing with the right to this claim.
Okay, and can you provide an explanation, and you touched on this in your testimony actually, of the landowners in Illinois and the problems that they're experiencing because of the cloud on their titles, and then also discuss the support you've received from them for your legislation?
Yeah, thank you again. That's a really great question because, no one wants to have cloud on their title, and it causes problems at the bank. It causes problems when selling, when buying. Those are just huge problems for those landowners. When we started working on a bill, that was our first grassroots effort, was to go to the landowners, go to the local legislators, and especially the Farm Bureau to make sure they were happy with this bill. Because if they weren't happy, this bill was going nowhere. So it had to begin with them. So, we wanted to make sure they had a bill that solved their problem, a bill that took care of the tribe. And there's a third winner here is the United States. They get to settle a 200-year-old land claim. So, this bill is a win for all.
Well, I think that's one of the merits, and I'd like to comment on this briefly, but what you really do is put the responsibility, or I assume your lawsuit will do, back where it belongs, on the United States government, which violated the treaty, violated its trust responsibilities. And so if there's any adverse consequences here or penalties to be paid, it ought to be paid by the United States government. It should not fall on innocent landowners that acquired property many decades, after this transgression appears. Is that a fair statement? That would just give you the opportunity to make your case in court?
That's a very fair statement. Thank you. Yes. In thinking about this, when this began, we were getting ready to turn around and try to do to the landowners what was done to us so long ago. No one wants to have their land taken. This is a by far better way to solve this. And so, we look forward to passing this law and being able for all of us to have relief.
Yeah, I would just add, Mr. Chairman, for the record, this is pretty common in Oklahoma. A lot of our tribes have land disputes with the federal government. The great majority are like the Miamis. They've been forcibly removed from ancestral homelands. They have claims there. They frankly quite often have claims within the state itself. It's a pretty messy process opening up tribal land for non-tribal settlement. But we found we can take these things rather than involving current property owners. I was part of an effort to settle. We had Chickasaws, Cherokees, and Choctaws owned river bottom land in Oklahoma, had thousands of individual landowners. They had done nothing wrong. The original transgression was the federal government, and we managed to get them into court, but somewhat similar means that Chief Langford's pursuing, and we got a settlement. It was about a $40 million settlement, so it was a considerable settlement. But the point is, the people that were paying for it were the people that were responsible, or the entity, I should say. The United States government should not be those individual landowners. And so I think Chief Langford and the Miami should be commended, quite frankly. They're not trying to put people that do no fault of their own or a different spot. They're going back to the United States government saying, you did the wrong thing here. Let's go to court and let's see if we can find an equitable settlement. So, again, Chief, I congratulate you and the Miami Nation. I think you're doing it the right way, and I would just urge everybody to vote for the bill and give you your opportunity to address this long-standing issue where it belongs in court.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields. At this time, the chair recognizes the ranking member of the subcommittee, Ms. Ledger-Fernandez, for 5 minutes. Ms. Ledger-Fernandez.
Thank you very much. And I'll just pick up on with Chief Langford. And I just wanted to follow up on the comments that were made by Chairman Cole as well as your testimony. This is not a new approach to addressing land claims. Is that right? Is there precedent for this? And can you briefly describe what that is?
Thank you for that question. This has been done before. This is not new. We're not plowing new ground or making new law. This has been done before, and so yes.
And as I loved serving, I love serving with you as well, but I love serving with former Representative Young, and I love his question. Is like, you sure you want to do this? But that was a question that you got to answer, right? So yes. In my mind, when I look at this, that's an issue of tribal sovereignty where you're making this decision and this is how you want to deal with this past injustice. President Farwa, I love saying that, President Farwa. She is not just somebody who has taken over as president. She has made an impact at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. She took a museum exhibit that was old and dated and hadn't been done by the Pueblos and turned it into our voices, Pueblo voices. And now she is leading this venture in the middle of Albuquerque, in the middle of our Representative Stansbury's district. One of the things that strikes me about the work that the Indian Pueblo Marketing Inc., the Indian Pueblo Cultural, it has lots of different names, does is it has transformed that property. And your testimony talks a little bit about how it's transformed a place of trauma into a place of both celebration and education. So it's not just where the Pueblo members can go and learn about their own history, but tell us a little bit about how you have transformed the ability of others to learn of the Puebloan history in one place.
Thank you very much. It's a great point to highlight that the campus of the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center has absolutely amplified who we are as Pueblo people right in the heart of Albuquerque. We recently opened an entrepreneur complex with a commercial kitchen, a teaching garden, a business center to uplift and guide entrepreneurs. We also have an establishment on our campus that's owned and operated by a native vegan chef and her work to uplift culinary arts. So it's a wonderful place. We recently opened La Mantanita Co-op on our campus. It's a community grocery store that works with local farmers to get back and just create this campus that is filled with activity, celebration, art, and we can truly see who we are as Pueblo people all across our campus. And Albuquerque is better because of the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, because of the work of our 19 Pueblos. And it's the only place where 19 sovereign nations come together under one body to form governance, for advocacy and policy, economic development, and history, art, and culture. So I couldn't be more proud to work alongside our 19 Pueblos and to, guide that next vision.
Well, thank you very much. And to have transformed what was barren land into this vibrant place, I think is important that we take the last pieces and move it over. I want to thank you very much, President Seneca. I want to thank you on our 250th year anniversary of our own Constitution for the contributions that your people, and I'm not going to say it correctly, Haudenosaunee, have made to that. And I think it is fitting that at this point in time, we recognize that, well, you have contributed so much to who we are as a nation, these wonderful ideals we have, right, about how we can govern ourselves and how the people are at the core of our democracy and our checks and balances that came from your own history that it is only right that we give back to you the ability to protect your own. Can you describe how you see this issue as preserving your ability to exercise your own tribal sovereignty?
Yes, I think my mic is still on. Yes, thank you. It's. I think as you look at the things that we've been working on for a number of years at Seneca Nation, and what the basis of that is I think is more than a bill that's before you, this 7065 bill. It's about the things that have occurred throughout history that our people have endured, going back to the beginning, the 250 years you talk about, and the resiliency of our people to be able to survive and still be here in 2026 as a nation. I think, this what happened in 1948 and the giving of criminal jurisdiction over to the state of New York encompasses many different things that were happening in that period of time. You go back to the 1830 Indian Removal Act, when Native people were being removed from their lands and pushed out west. You talk about the boarding schools that were part of that. We had a boarding school, Thomas Indian School, on our territory. They existed for over 75 years. And, to strip us of our identity, our culture, our heritage, our customs, our language, all of those different things.
So thank you so very much. The chair is going to call time on this because we have lots of questions, but thank you once again for pointing out that we are now in a different era, and so we must right the wrongs of our past.
Exactly.
Thank you very much to each of our witnesses. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I'm going to pick up where you and the ranking member were talking about President Seneca. Do you view H.R. 7065 as primarily a law enforcement issue, or do you see it as a broader matter of restoring tribal authority to govern and protect your own community?
Yeah, I agree that with you on that, Chairman. I think it's a restoring of sovereignty. It's restoring our authority to be able to take care of our people the way they want to be taken care of, the way we need to work on it. Because only Seneca people know what they need to do to be able to protect themselves, to protect our territory, and protect our community. We are very restricted on our ability to do that at the moment. I know there were questions to the gentleman, Mr. Mercier, about what the Bureau is doing, what Interior is doing. We've been engaging with the administration from day one when we were able to come to Washington and start meeting with Interior. And they've been very helpful in regards to directing the opportunities that are afforded to Native nations across this country to be able to be involved with that. But there are certain things that we have to build a foundation at our territories to be able to access and to receive funding in regards to those types of benefits. And so, it is. It's a bigger picture, but zeroing in on law enforcement and safety of our people is paramount, and we need to really be able to grab a hold of that and move forward in regards to what Seneca Nation sees best for itself.
Right. So, President Seneca, you mentioned in your testimony a federal, state, local law enforcement summit that happened in July of 2025, I believe. Could you describe what happened in the conversations that the Seneca Nation had with local, state, and federal law enforcement since that? What discussions have you had since that summit?
Yeah, and it came from those meetings that we had. We had early on when Scott Davis was filling as Assistant Secretary and waiting for Mr. Kirkland to be confirmed. We met with him. We invited him to our territory. Said, let's see what we can do, and let's bring people together to be able to address these many issues that we face. And so we invited Interior. They came. We had Department of Justice there, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the New York State Police, Troop A. We had the sheriffs, the local sheriffs, and local police departments. We had a forum of discussion with our council, with all law enforcement, and we were able to, talk about the ways that we can work together to be able to combat the problems that we face in regards to criminal activity and the illicit drug trafficking, the human trafficking, the sex trafficking, all those things that come with this drug industry. And so we have to be able to work together. And, we made some great strides. We're still working on it. It's going to take continued engagement, continued follow through in regards to making sure that we get to a place where we can now start taking action.
How would you define success, or how would we measure success if we gave this criminal jurisdiction back to the Seneca Nation and the federal government with respect to drug cartels? How would we know that it's working?
It's like the questions were asked of the Interior gentleman, that he didn't really, have the knowledge of what they were doing right now. I think success is communication, collaboration, working together, putting a plan together, and executing it. And we have to be able to, at all levels, communicate and make sure that people are sharing information, that things are being done, that we're making progress in regards to the illicit trafficking that goes on, not just on Seneca Nation territory, but across this country in communities that are suffering from this drug epidemic and this problem of criminal activity that is just taking over our people and poisoning our people and our communities.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Seneca. Ms. Farava, quick question. How significant can relatively small parcels of land be for cultural preservation, community services, and economic development in Indian country?
Great question. Of the highest significance and importance. It's very important for us as Pueblo people to retain and get back land that was once rightfully ours. It can have a tremendous impact just in our footprint. This land is contiguous with other land that we already have, and so it would just help our footprint that we have there.
Great. Thank you. I yield back the remainder of my time, and at this point, the chair would recognize the gentleman from the state of Arizona, Ms. Grijalva, for 5 minutes. Ms. Grijalva.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing centers on 3 bills that speak directly to our trust and treaty responsibilities and their enduring principle of tribal sovereignty. While each addresses a distinct historical injustice or jurisdictional challenge, they raise the fundamental question: will the United States honor its commitments to tribal nations? These bills reflect an ongoing work of reconciling past federal actions with present-day responsibilities. They represent a continuation of deliberate federal policy choice to support tribal self-determination, strengthen community-led development, resolve land disputes fairly, restore lands into trust, and clarify jurisdiction in ways that reinforce tribal governance. Jurisdictional clarity affects whether communities receive consistent law enforcement services, whether sovereignty is respected in practice and not just in principle, or whether public safety and systems function as they should. At their core, these measures recognize that tribal nations are best positioned to govern their own lands, consistent with federal law and the United States trust responsibility. Together, these bills reflect bipartisan efforts to meet our obligations and ensure our actions align with our communities to tribal nations, our commitments to tribal nations, and their right to self-governance. I previously served, this would be a question to Ms. Fragua. I previously served on the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board and now sit on the Education and Workforce Committee in addition to this subcommittee. I'm also particularly interested in the educational component of the center's work. Can you share more on how the center works to provide culturally grounded education for Native youth?
Thank you very much. We have an Indigenous wisdom curriculum. It's over 110 lessons that were prepared by Native educators, and they're free. Educators can go online and download them. They span all subject matters, and they're written to New Mexico standards and benchmarks. We host curriculum workshops. We host open house for educators, and we work very closely with the UNM Indigenous Center to be able to expand our curriculum. And it has been wonderful for our Native children to learn the stories of our ancestors, the stories of Miguel Trujillo, who fought for Native Americans to have the right to vote in their classrooms. We need to show our children the importance of who we are as Pueblo people, and that we're not a people of the past, we're a people of today, and we are shaping tomorrow. So that's the important work of the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. one aspect of the very important work.
Yeah, and how would HR 6162 allow you to expand these educational programs and workforce development opportunities to your communities?
Thank you. We recently opened up the Indian Pueblo Entrepreneur Complex, and this is focused in food and agriculture. This parcel of land will help us to expand that footprint in working with Native and non-Native entrepreneurs as they grow and scale their business. We're really excited to share that we've just been granted approval by the state of New Mexico to form a closed-loop food system where we can purchase food from farmers, Pueblo native farmers, and sell it to BIA schools, BIE schools within our Pueblo communities. And so this will help to uplift that work and create a business center, a business complex to amplify the work that we're doing.
You've described the center as tangible proof of what the Pueblos can achieve and how the center represents cultural healing and restorative justice. Can you share more on how important returning culturally significant lands to tribes is?
Absolutely. With each return and each parcel that we've received, we've been able to transform that into sustainable economic development, expanding our tax base, expanding our opportunity to generate profits that go back and fund our Pueblo communities. It's not something that we take for granted. It's not something that we do just as a job, but it's truly a mission in the work that we do to uplift our Pueblo communities. The land is very important to who we are as Pueblo people. Our 19 Pueblos exist on the land of our ancestors since time immemorial. And we pray and we look to the land for blessings and sustenance. And it's not just a piece of property. It's not just a building. It's really who we are and shapes the future of our Pueblo communities.
Thank you. Would you share more on how the center is able to promote Native artists and how HR 6162 will expand opportunities for Native artists and ensure economic and cultural sustainability of Native art in your community?
Absolutely. Native American artists are vital to our communities. Since time immemorial, taking shells in trade and creating these beautiful pieces. The Indian Pueblo Cultural Center has a daily artist program where we invite artists to sell directly to the public. We also have a Native American gift shop that we're authentic and have the most beautiful pieces. So we work to uplift our artists in many ways, and the Entrepreneur Complex will be an extension of that as well.
Thank you. I clearly need to go visit the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, and thank you for the extension. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. At this time, the chair recognizes the gentleman from the state of New Mexico, Ms. Stansbury, for 5 minutes. Ms. Stansbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to take this moment to propose a CODEL to New Mexico to go visit our cultural center and our Pueblos. Though I am partly joking, I hope that we actually can go visit. There's a lot of amazing cultural centers out there that tribes have built across the country, but I think we have one of the best in the country, and I think that President Frawa has highlighted so many amazing things that are happening on that property. And as somebody who grew up right down the street in the North Valley, I'm so proud. And I really can't emphasize how much it has not only transformed that property, but it has transformed the entire community. It is unrecognizable from what it was in the 1980s. That entire community has been completely transformed as a cultural and economic hub inside of our city. And it's really, truly extraordinary. And it's thanks to the work of yourself and other leaders who've come before. But I want to circle back to our New Mexico bill in just a moment, but I do want to take a moment to address our tribal leaders who are here with us today, Chief Langford and President Seneca. I want to say thank you for being here today and that we honor your service to your nations and the nation-to-nation relationship that the Congress has with your nations, and to say that I stand in strong support for both of your bills, and I stand here ready to help to get those across the finish line however I can. And President Seneca and I had a few moments to chat before this hearing. I am proud to say I'm an alum of a distinguished school from Haudenosaunee country. I went to Cornell and did the Native Studies program, which is very unique in the country as a land-grant school because the Haudenosaunee nations play a key role in helping to guide the programming and the curriculum. And so I'm honored that you're here today. And of course, the Alliance is as as long as the Pueblo Alliance as well. And so we're grateful to have you here today. So Director Frawa, I want to just talk a little bit more about this parcel. I think you addressed it a little bit with our ranking member Grijalva here, but tell us more about how you intend to bring this property into the cultural center's work and what you hope it will generate, both in terms of connection to the existing programming that you're doing as well as economic opportunities.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. The Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, over many decades of leadership and visioning, has really created a hub for entrepreneurship and economic development. And so the opportunity to bring this into trust will expand our footprint in the role of the Indian Pueblo Entrepreneur Complex. We'll be able to move some of the work that we're doing on the lands of the Cultural Center to the south near I-40, and it's easy egress and getting on and off the freeway there. We'll be able to partner with our entrepreneurs to help them scale their businesses. When we opened the entrepreneur complex last year, we immediately filled the need. We immediately filled the capacity for cold storage. And so this is something in Albuquerque that our entrepreneurs, that our farmers need. And so this will provide us the opportunity to expand that cold storage, provide a business complex. The city of Albuquerque is also developing a rail trail, and this is a walking loop around Albuquerque to connect communities. And this land will be a part of that rail trail where we can create an outdoor space for our entrepreneurs to be able to have food trucks, artist opportunities, and ventures of that nature to connect the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center campus to the greater metro area.
I'm excited to hear that. Obviously, I'm a huge fan, but also, just to share in this space, to watch the development of this entrepreneurial center has been really exciting over the last couple of years. And I was excited to be able to help support IPCC as they were launching this center. I think across the United States, in our Native communities, there are so many incredible entrepreneurs, artists, chefs. And what is so cool about this entrepreneurial center is it is creating a physical space as well as that institutional infrastructure to help entrepreneurs take their ideas, their crafts, their art to the next level. And it's so cool to see the transformational work you guys are doing. So thank you for your leadership, and excited to get the committee there. I yield back. Oh, actually, before I yield, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent to enter 8 letters into the record from APCG, IPCC, our County Commission, City of Albuquerque, State Senator, Chamber of Commerce, Albuquerque Regional Economic Alliance, and Visit Albuquerque in support of this project.
Without objection.
Thank
and
you.
The gentleman yields. At this time, the chair recognizes the gentleman from the state of New York, Mr. Kennedy, for 5 minutes. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Ledger Fernandez, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to speak on H.R. 7065, the Seneca Nation Law Enforcement Act that I'm a proud sponsor of. I also want to welcome Seneca Nation President and my good friend, J.C. Seneca, along with members of the nation. We would not be here without President Seneca's leadership and the steadfast work of the Seneca Nation Council. I'd like to recognize and thank President Seneca for his military service as well, having served 4 years in the United States Air Force. The Seneca Nation Law Enforcement Act is not just about public safety. It goes to the heart of the Seneca Nation's inherent sovereignty. Without the authority and resources to carry it out, sovereignty is undermined. H.R. 7065 ensures the nation can govern its territory, uphold its laws, and protect its citizens. As a member of the New York State Senate, I formed and chaired the Subcommittee on State Native American Relations, grounded in honoring tribal sovereignty, protecting sacred lands, and expanding access to health care and education for Native communities. In that role, I worked closely with the nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and saw firsthand their long fight for sovereignty, dignity, respect, and control of their lands. What I learned is that progress only happens when nations are empowered to speak for themselves and determine their own future. Ensuring their voices are heard isn't optional, it's essential. President Seneca, Thank you again for your leadership and your testimony here today. I was pleased to learn that the state companion to this bill has been signed into law, thanks to the leadership of Assembly Majority Leader Peoples-Stokes and Senator Baskin, and that progress is exactly why this committee's action matters so much today. Can you help the committee understand the public safety challenges that the nation currently faces? Explain why having the tools and authority to enforce your own laws is central to sovereignty? And share what passage of this act would mean, not just for the Seneca Nation, but for the safety and the well-being of the entire region.
Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate the good words, and thanks for the questions. You know, it all centers around the sovereignty of our nation and the jurisdiction that we hold. When I started engagement with outside law enforcement, with the state of New York, with the United States on this initiative that brings us here today, things were happening on our territory that we had no control over, that we could not get anything done. We couldn't get help in regards to outside law enforcement trying to take care of this drug epidemic, the influx of illegal drugs on our territory, the manipulation and what's happened to our Seneca women. And, it was so frustrating. And, we have to be able to be in control of it. And, I communicated with everybody. I said, we're looking for help. Are you willing to help? Is the United States willing to help? Is the state of New York willing to help? If you're not, just let me know, because we're going to have to take care of business our own way if that's what has to be done. So I'm very thankful for all of our engagement, that the United States has stepped forward, that the state of New York has stepped forward in working to put a working together relationship together. And that's the heart of this thing, is to be able to work together, to collaborate, to find an answer and solution to these many issues that we face. Whether it's drug trafficking or other ones, we need to be able to do that. And I think, that's where we are.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your leadership. And to the other folks here testifying today, thank you very much as well. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I want to thank each of our witnesses for their valuable testimony and also my colleagues for their questions. Members of the committee may have some additional questions for each of you witnesses, and we'd ask that you respond to those questions in writing. Under Committee Rule 3, members of the committee must submit any questions to the committee clerk by 5 p.m. on Monday, March 9th, 2026. The hearing record will be held open for 10 business days for those responses. If there is no further business, without objection, the committee stands adjourned.